Welcome to the Rock the Stage Show. Each week, international media expert Rich Bontrager has in-depth and personal conversations with celebrities, top leaders, authors, speakers, and media professionals. Now, from the Rock the Stage studios, here's your host, the Trigger, Rich Bontrager.
Welcome back, Rock the Stage. Sunday night once again here with you to help you shine brighter on camera and stage, but also meet amazing people that we get to bring from around the world to highlight their gifts, their talents, and their incredible stories that they have. And tonight, it's all about defying the odds. Now, you may have heard me use that phrase many times because that's part of my shtick as well. But this person has been doing it in amazing ways that really do defy the odds. You know, people talk about disabilities, and sometimes it's a dirty word. Disabilities are often seen as that thing that a throwaway. They aren't good enough. If you have a disability, people seem to stack the deck against you. What if you believe that you have great abilities, great powers, and you're going to step out and help the world? And I really do mean the world, globally, not just in your own backyard. Actually step up and reach for the stars, as Walt Disney would say, and actually go for it. My guest today has done that. My guest is truly amazing. As someone whose eyesight began to falter at the young age of 7, Aron O'Dowd is living proof that what seems impossible is possible when you believe. Today, aged 33 years old, Aron's adaptive lifestyle has allowed him to thrive. He's a triathlon, an author, a talk show host, and one of the champions of the new HOMEFULNESS project in Ireland. Welcome, Aron O'Dowd, to Rock the Stage Show. Let's have our team bring him on in just 1 minute there. There's Aron. How's it going, Aron?
I'm doing pretty good, and great to be part of the stage to rock with all the rock stars. Now, it's funny, Rich and I work back just hand in hand, and strange for it to be on the opposite end of the show, you know?
Well, and I've had the privilege of getting to know you. I can truly call you a friend now, not just colleague, because both in the media eye, we're both working with people that we know together, but we've actually now become real friends. That's kind of cool.
It is pretty cool, isn't it?
And both of our stories have been one of overcoming, of defying the odds. But your outlook on life, I love this. Part of your outlook is let's do this. Where did that come from? Because people with disabilities, distractions, whatever you want to call them, don't always press into let's do this. So let's start there. Where did that come from?
I think for me, it came from my family in the sense of the genetics run through my family. So I have it, my uncle has it, my sister has it, a thing called retina pigmentosa. So if you have your eye like that and it goes like that, that's what's happening to my vision. So, but in our family it was about, okay, how can we make this a lifestyle of where challenges come, make them possible to impossible, and that's what we've done as a family, and that's kind of steeped into my DNA as a child, growing up from child to teenager to now an adult.
Now, people have to understand you are blind, but not totally blind. Could you explain what level of sight you have?
You know, Rich, this is a question I always get, and I try to describe 30%, 40%, but I really don't know. I can see half a meter. I can tell your body shape, but don't ask me what color eyes you have or the shape of your nose. That's a whole different ball game. And I use a long cane to navigate it. I call it my wand because it's like a magic wand when you navigate the streets. I use text-to-speech software to navigate the virtual world, and that's how I navigate.
Go back to age 7. You're losing your sight. It's getting darker. It's getting weaker. What was going through your mind at that point?
So, when I was growing up, I had perfect vision. I could see everything perfect. And my mom was starting to notice stuff, and she's like, "This is odd." And she brought me to the ophthalmologist, and seeing the ophthalmologist, and they're doing all the tests, and put the things on, and the doctor says, "Hey, your son Aaron has retinal pigmentosa, and probably by his 20s, he may not be able to see." And The big problem with this condition is it's not just the eyes, which we found out later. My family moved to Austin, Texas, because my dad worked for Dell Computers at the time, and my mom discovered that my sister had this, and she started digging deep as an investigative journalist, and we found out that there's a gene called Bardet-Biedl syndrome, and that affects the whole body. And I was born an extra digit on my toe, my left toe, and my left foot, and that's an indication of the gene. And there's, when you type into Google, there's like 50 different possible things that could come up with it. But like you mentioned, I overcame stuff, found answers for it, but I'm in the ophthalmologist's office at 7. I'm told this, and it's like a kick in the pants. And we moved to Austin, Texas, and that's when I could still bike, I could still cycle. Then lived in there for 6 years to elementary school, and then went to Taiwan for 2 years. And
So I just learned 2 new things about you in 30 seconds.
yeah,
A, Austin, Texas. I did not know you were ever stateside. I never knew that from all of our conversations. And 6 digits on your toes. Oh my.
yeah. I could take off my sock and show you the scar. I have the scar to prove it.
So they did remove it, but
Yes.
wow. These are things that you don't find out unless you ask these strange questions that may seem strange to a lot of people, as you and I know. When we go through these adaptive lives, there are often more things going on than just one adaptive thing, aren't there?
Yes, there is.
What was it like going through that as a child? I mean, you're looking at your feet, and you guys, I got 6 and I got 5. What do I do, Mom?
So when I was born, I came 28th November 1990. I'm coming out of my mom at warp speed, ready to run at life, and whether I twist and turn, and I get the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck for 30 seconds. And I come back. My mom's looking at my feet, and she says, "He's 6 digits. Like, how on earth are we able to fit in his shoes if he got 6 digits in his foot?" And at the age of 1, my parents decided you need to remove a digit because he'd not be able to fit it into runners or sandals or shoes when he grows older.
Wow. Now, was there a balance issue between your 2 feet? When you first started to walk as a child, everyone's got to get that balance right. You have an extra thing there sticking out that the other side doesn't have. Was there anything weird to learn with that?
No, like I had it removed, so I had normal 5 digits, and I lived life and ran and walked as any other child would do. I didn't crawl, but I did learn how to walk and run and all that.
Now, when you're going through this, and again, I went through it because of my stutter, my eyes, I'm deaf in one ear, all the things that go together, all the weird things that make us awkward. And everyone sees it. I mean, with their eyes, you and I cannot hide our eyes, don't do the things that normal eyes do. What was that like for you to deal with that where you had sight at the beginning and then the sight starts fading? What was it like with friends, family, other people when they realize Aaron's eyes aren't quite working right?
So I had a friend, and the friend and I, when I lived in Austin, Texas, he was big into gaming, and that was the time where I had enough vision to play video gaming. I'd spend uh, weekend binges on the PC and the Xbox. This is the time when video gaming is just becoming huge. I was able to cycle, but probably from the age of 9, I lost my nighttime vision. So if it got dark, I would be totally blind. And then probably at age 12 and 13, that's kind of when puberty kicked in. That's when going, as I described, going to Las Vegas, betting on it, and you don't know where the blackjack will end. And that's the problem my eye condition is that once puberty kicks, the doctors don't know how much percentage you can lose. You can lose all of it, or you could lose 70, 60, 50%. You don't know how much because the hormones kick the projection of the speed of the condition.
Wow. So again, hormones affect everybody in different ways. But that definitely impacted your life.
Mhm.
Now, you said your family has similar issues.
Yes.
Was that helpful to be able to lean on them and talk to them? Or was it kind of just, hey, this is who we are. We don't even talk about it?
To be honest, Rich, this condition is still rare, and this is going back in the mid 90s, early 2000s, and we didn't know a lot of information about it. My uncle is in his 50s. He got it at the age of 16. When my mom had my sister, who's 6 years younger than me, the doctor said, "Hey, this is the problem," and we knew it's. And how it works is, and through genetic testing in Ireland, I discovered that my parents and my grandparents are carriers of the gene, but they aren't affected. Comparing to my sister, my uncle and I are affected by the condition.
So most likely, if you get married, have a child,
Hmm.
you probably will pass on the gene as well.
Depending if the other individual has the same gene pool.
But it's a very, very, very rare gene.
Yeah, I don't know the percentage of it, but it's like a lot of people in that have a similar condition could have that gene or may have that gene, and it's like an example, like speech therapy. I had to go through speech therapy, occupational therapy. Like their autism is. I don't have it, but I'm giving suggestions on what could happen.
Yeah.
In males, the testosterone in the growing may not grow as normal during puberty. You have kidney problems. I only found out 2 year and a half ago, I have liver problems based on the gene. So even though I've got all the tests done through the genetic testing, they still don't understand how this gene works. They know how the eye part of it works and the visual impairment, but not the gene.
So wow. So does that mean you have to watch it and you could have a liver failure, or is this very
Uh,
rare, or do they not know?
At the moment, I have a fatty liver and I have to watch what I eat. Lucky enough, being a high end athlete, I work with one of the best nutritionists in Ireland on Zoom and in person. And she, over the number of years working with her, she'd send me these kits and I go get blood tests done every 3 to 6 months. I send her back the results. She gets out her highlighter and her magnifying glass and she's, "Okay, Aaron, here's the food you need to eat, here's the supplements you need to take, and here's the dosage you need to take, and come back to me and see how it works."
Wow. So now let's jump into it. You're an athlete, a triathlon, but I know you've done other sports as well, right?
I've done a lot of sports, from mountain boarding, rollerblading, judo, horse riding, surfing, water skiing. But I discovered a sport called rowing, and I fell in love with it. And I did it for 12 years, and it got to a point where I had to divorce and end the marriage and go do another sport, which is now triathlon.
So you, the mountain thing. What
Yeah,
exactly is that?
so my parents lived in the countryside of Limerick City, in the middle of nowhere with a forest, and it's all hills. And I'm an adrenaline junkie with a visual impairment, and that's two things that don't that don't add up together. And and so I'm going downhill on this long skateboard with two Labradors running behind me, and then I'm walking back up, and the farmers are moving their tractors down. I'm stuck. I have them stuck behind me going downhill on a long skateboard.
Physical impairment with eyesight, but you're an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah.
Did your friends and family say, Aaron, we don't do that?
No, no, I was encouraged. Go do it. Just make sure you don't hurt yourself.
Really? You were encouraged to go do these, what many would say were beyond your reach, highly risky. Your parents encouraged that?
Yeah, I used to climb trees and everything and go lost in the forest walking my dogs. I sprinted my Labradors downhill on a bike. Unfortunately, that didn't go well. She got angsty and wanted to win, and she overcut me. I did a backflip and landed straight on the wrist and broke my wrist. So biking after that became a no go.
You and me might be brothers from another mother from a couple of years separately. We're both bald. We both have impairments. We both had Labradors. And we both did things that people said you shouldn't naturally do. These are things beyond your reach. But again, it's great that your family encouraged you like mine did
Mhm.
because they just said, try it. You never know until you try, right?
Yes.
What was that like for you to have that empowerment of a family, to have that support to help you break through the barriers early on? Because if you tell you no over and over early on, everything else is going to be worse and worse. But they told you to go, go, go. What was that like?
It was pretty cool, and it's still pretty cool today. My family is a huge connector and a huge component of my life. Like, we've traveled the world together. We live in the same city together, but yet we have the independence. Eve and I, which is my sister, have the independence, but yet we live together. We're walk away. If I need problem, I'll call my mom on FaceTime. Say, hey, can you see this or can you do that? So as much as you want to be independent, I have to depend on them as much as well. So it's been a balance, but yet as parents, they've allowed me to be whoever I need to be to do what I need to be at the same time. So that there's that love, do whatever you want to do. But like I said, if it hurts you or ends you up in trouble, then that's a no go.
So you've also traveled to Morocco, right?
I have, yes.
What was that? Because that sounds like it was kind of a spiritual journey part of it, just a exploration of life. What was Morocco all about?
Morocco was amazing. So I finished high school, and I was like, what will I do next? And it's like, I don't know. And I wanted to tour the world, and my uncle on my mom's side is Moroccan. And we wanted to visit Morocco, and we go to holidays to Spain every year. And we call up our uncle, say, anytime you're in the neighborhood, come give me a call, and I'll show you the neighborhood. And one summer in 2013, we decided, let's go to Morocco. And we hopped on the ferry, and we went over to him, and he showed us the whole place in one day. It was like one of the best tours ever. And then we came back and we spent 3 months touring through Morocco, Tangier, Fez, Marrakesh, and some crazy scenes where we're coming back to the train station in Fez, and you're watching The Bourne Identity, you see all these major car scenes. That was me. You're like, we're going high speed in this 1960s Mercedes, and you're drifting between cars, and it's the rush to get to the train station, and it's the ferry, and it was a crazy trip, but some amazing memories.
Well, and you've led an international life. You mentioned Austin, Texas,
Hmm.
Spain, Morocco, Ireland. You've really expanded your world.
Hmm.
Do you love that idea that you get to expand your world, do it your way, and there's no bounds for Aron O'Dowd?
Yeah, I love that, Rich. Endless possibilities, but the possibilities land with you. So if you create the limitations, you're creating the limitations. You don't create the limitations, you don't have the limitations.
So, how much of your lifestyle is mindset? How much of it starts with the mind first?
I would say 95% of my day.
How
What about
much of it is heart and soul? How much of it is just like that passion? You said that you're an adrenaline junkie and I'm going to go for it.
100%? I could go further if it was physically a physical percentage, but no, 1,000, 1,000,000. It's my decisions lie on passion, and then mindset kicks in. It's like, are you crazy, Aaron? You want to really do that?
Have you ever tried something and it didn't work out? You didn't defy the odds. You hit the wall. And if so, what was it and how did it impact you?
Um, hmm. I think the fact that I spent years as an athlete in rowing in a sport I loved, and then found out I couldn't get to the next stage, which is World Championships and Paralympics. And that was a big kick in the pants because I spent years perfecting, years of doing it, and then realized the team I had had all dismantled, and I was the only athlete left. And there was nothing else. So that took me year and a bit to overcome. And that's why I call it divorce, because it was really a mental divorce of what's next. And the nutritionist I worked with, we'd have these deep spiritual health, pharmaceutical conversations. Why don't you just give the sport triathlon and go? I was like, first conversation, no, I'm grand. Second conversation, kinda, and third one, all right, I'll give it a go. And that was a hard moment in my life.
So talk to that a little bit because a lot of people are trying to go for it. They are trying to defy the odds. And the hardest thing is to pick yourself and get back up after you've been knocked back. Walk
Mhm.
us through what did you do? I mean, because I know you journal, you pray, you have a holistic life, but what did you do to get through that?
So from 2019 was a very tough year. My grandfather passed away, who I've spent 7 years living with on the mom's side, taking, not doing a sport that I loved so much. So I started doing aerial silks to see if that would be a sport I could do, hanging 12 feet in midair, tangled around silks and hanging and spinning and all. That was actually pretty cool. And then I decided to go to the ashram in Tattendorf outside Vienna, the meditation I practiced called Kriya Yoga. And I spent, I think, 5 or 6 weeks there just meditating. And then when I left, I realized, okay, I have the answers. I need everything I wanted. I got everything, and I'm ready to continue what I need to do.
Now, when did your experience on the Queen Mary took place? You had a 6-week retreat, disappeared, deal with life, but then you ended up at one point on the Queen Mary, and you spoke publicly, gave your first lecture ever all in that same time period. Holy cow!
So it was so the backstory is I read Autobiography of Yogi in 2010. I was still in high school, and I was going through a moment where I had to transition from one educational system to another. And it's like, I don't want to, but I have to. And I don't want to, and I have to. And I finished Autobiography of Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, and my dad said, hey, there's a teacher coming from Austria to Ireland to teach Kriya Yoga. And I said, oh, I gotta do it. And don't want to do it, go do it. And I had someone come into my room energetically and spiritually said, you're doing it. You don't like it, you're doing it. So I said to my dad, all right, we're gonna go do it. And that was 2010, and got initiated. And I've had some amazing spiritual experiences, but that blew my mind. I came out ghostly in my face, and I was like, this is it. I found my practice, and since then I've been practicing it. And then the following year, I thought, I'm going to pack up this education thing and become a monk. And I'm in Tattendorf for the first time in the ashram, and I say to the teacher, I want to become a monk. She's like, yeah, you'll become a monk, but it doesn't suit you. What do you mean? It doesn't suit you. And it's like, and then a couple years I realized, oh yeah, she is right. And then the following Christmas, I decided I had my first had a relationship in America, and I said, I'm going to go over and see her, and I'll stop off in the ashram in Miami in a place called Homestead, which was the headquarters of Kriya Yoga back when it was starting up in America. So I spent Christmas there, and I was like, oh, this is interesting, and had another incredible experience. And then the lady, Mairead Conlon, who I was doing work experience as a Reiki therapist in Dublin, said after I finished high school, I said, hey, there's this event in Los Angeles called the Queen Mary Ship, and I'd like you to come, where you give your Reiki session, then you give 2 public talks. And my brain is like, oh no, I can't do that. That's out of my realm. She's like, yeah, you can do it. And I was like, okay. And I tell my parents like, okay. But I realized, okay, I haven't spoken before on stage. I've given a few sessions to people, but like, this is way out of my realm. And it's like, I'm gonna go meditate 2 weeks in Miami, and then 6 weeks in Chicago, and then like if I was getting ready for a massive race. And I arrived in the Queen Mary ship on September 10th, 2013, and it was amazing. And I met some incredible people there who I've worked with and continue, and are friends who are amazing. And that's kind of what happened. I gave my speeches; they were amazing. I gave my treatments, and it was amazing.
I told you this would be an interesting interview. I told you this guy's been everywhere, defied the odds, and keeps on going. Then you become a little bit of a lecturer. You get into public speaking, and then you get into this intuitive interview thing. You start speaking on microphone, and you open up a podcast. Again, visually impaired, running controls, doing all this. How did that develop, and what got you into that?
So when I was on the Queen Mary ship, I stopped in the ashram in Homestead, Miami, and there was a guy who was a retired producer. And the 2 weeks there, they were bouncing back and forth on ideas. And before I met this guy in this space, I'm an addictive rugby player. If I had full vision and all my faculties, I'd be playing rugby. And that's my sport. I love, I watch, and I listen to. And I was listening to shows about the coming matches and what player played here and all the gossip about the sport. And so I did love radio, and I love doing voices and all that. And when I was speaking to this guy in 2013 in the ashram in Homestead, I got this curiosity, and I came back to Ireland after going to the Queen Mary ship, and I said to my mom, I want to study massage therapy, anatomy, and physiology. So I spent a year doing that. learning about the body and how it works and so on. And then finished that and came back to, what's next? And I said, all right, I'll give this podcasting thing a go. And I messaged the producer that I knew and said, hey, are you interested in doing this? Yeah, okay. If you pay me, you work for me, I'll do work for him. And that's, I think, 10 or 11 years ago. And did shows on and off trying to find my sweet spot, which I have now. And went through some interesting microphones going off, not recording after doing a fantastic interview. Like, oh no! I was like kicking the furniture. I was like, oh, I gotta go do it again. And it's funny. I listen to the radio and I hear the exact same things. I'm like, oh, phew! I'm not the only person that experienced this.
Oh, the stories of 35 years of broadcasting I have for you, buddy. Let me tell you. Uh, so you got bit by the bug to interview people, and you explore spirituality, deep life stories. You're all about the stories, all about the people. And the interesting thing that people need to understand, like Rock the Stage show, the Aron O'Dowd show is very little scripted because he can't read the script. But you also like being in the flow with your guests like I do. Why do you prefer to do it that way? What, is it just because of the visual, or is it because you naturally just want to do it that way?
I love bungee jumping off stuff. I love racing. I love the adrenaline rush. And being unscripted gives me that adrenaline rush. I sometimes say to people when I come onto my shows, I have no idea what I'm about to say. I do my homework. I do my research. Once that record button goes on, I have no idea where I'm going because my soul kicks in and it's just like, all right, I've got my guides. I've got everyone around me. It's like, no, we're not going here. And sometimes we mid through a question, I hear, no, say it again. No, or I just get these nudges. And when you're racing at a high level, when you have to make a 1,000th of a second decision in a rowing race, when you're on water, hands are moving quick, your feet are moving quick, the boat's gliding like a bird, and you're looking left and right, and you hear, okay, I'm 1,000th of a second off from first to third, and you're pushing, and that's the same rush I do in my show.
Isn't that fun when you're talking with someone, interviewing? I call them discussions because we're not interviewing.
Yes.
But isn't that fun when you hear that one nugget and that voice in your head says, go deeper, go deeper. Isn't that the coolest thing when you found the nugget?
Yeah.
And often your guest doesn't know you found the nugget. Often most of the guests think they're just doing their thing, but you found the nugget. And it's fun to go mining that part of their story. And often what I see is they're smiling. They're even more into it because they now know this is not your normal interview. Have you found that to be true?
I have. And sometimes you need your dynamite, your power drills, your explosive to get there. And once you get there, it's like, I've hit gold. I got to show everybody,
What's been the funnest interview you've done? Who has been, again, because you've done a lot of people from around the world. You are global. But what's been the one that you either got in the swing of it, get the flow of it, or the guest was so amazing? What's one of your funnest memories? Besides my show, of course. I mean,
I know. I've done so many. I think I've done like close to 300 so far, and I'm not counting the unrecorded stuff. My very first interview was with Michael Peter Langevin, who had Magical Blend magazine, who's big into spirituality. He kind of blew my mind. I had, in the that's in the spiritual world. In the business world, I had Lee Tunnyware, where I just said 3 words, and he took the whole conversation. I just had to just nudge it here and there, and I was like, I just and if you know the gentleman who we're talking about, you'll understand what I'm saying is he's got a. And what's interesting is you can interview him 1,000 times and you're only touching the surface. You never really get deep into him. And I hang around with him in different communities and you really don't get the surface. You get the wow. So he's definitely on the list. Joseph McGuire be another one. So I've interviewed some interesting people in sports. Nick Littlehills, who's a sports sleep coach. Zena Muller, who's an Olympic rower, who did the ghost rowing, and in rowing, that's such a hard technique, is because you're gliding on the water, but the oars are barely touching and does not make a sound, and that's why they call it ghost rowing. There's a New Zealander that discovered this method, and it's so technically unreal. It's just like mm, watching art and grace at the same time. So I've interviewed various people. I think PMH Atwater is another one who I got to explore how to ask questions. So like pause and ask the in-depth conversation. But that interview was interesting because I made a tent, try and create my own studio with pots on the microphone, recording that, and it's just like I hope I don't hear the echo. And then it's sitting on top of the bed frame of a bed. I've done interviews in my mom's wardrobe with clothes around me in the dark. It's just yourself, Rich. You just get creative. You just get that quality.
Yes. You know, you've gotten better and better at this. I've seen you. I'm working with you, but for someone that does have these adaptive skills in life, these barriers again that we talked about at the beginning,
Hmm.
what advice would you give somebody who's starting out trying to get into the media landscape and start an audio podcast, a video pod? What things have you learned that you could pass on for them as they struggle with the reality of their own limitations, but there's ways to make it happen?
I think the first thing is find a community that you can like, know, trust, and be vulnerable with. That's the first thing. Second thing is find someone who has the experience, the knowledge, and the wisdom. Um, and then the third thing is get comfortable, because if you don't get comfortable and be uncomfortable, how can you be comfortable? And that's the second thing is play your tech, have fun with it, and make sure don't be afraid with the mistakes you're gonna make, because it's like wearing a new pair of shoes. You gotta break it in. You can't just go straight to stiletto heel and walk around at nighttime in your stiletto heels. You gotta break those heels in.
Well, we did your international book launch. Rock the Stage was hosting that, and the prime example of here's Aaron, does his own podcast, does all these amazing things. We're going around the world, and we beam into Aaron, and his microphone's not working. And we say, hey, Aaron, we'll come back to you in a few minutes. We go interview somebody else, come back to Aaron again. How's it going, Aaron? Can we hear you? Can't hear Aaron. After several tries, he finally gets on. And Aaron, the first things he says is, my mic was plugged in the wrong pot. And without stopping a beat, he laughs and jokes and goes on with the interview we had planned to have. But how much is that humor and the low stress level play into all this as well? I mean, that's not a skill people handle well.
I laugh because anyone that doesn't know, I put my microphone on the output instead of the input, and that means your audio is coming through the microphone instead of your speaker. But I think for me, spending 16 years in high performance sport, racing it, 5,000 people, 80,000 people, indoor rowing circuits, put me in a position where I can stress about it or I can just have fun. Yes, there is a stress level and a performance level too, but when you can only see 2 inches in front of you, and this is a lifetime for me where I face things where I walk into posts, I slide my finger off blades, and I do all sorts of stuff for cooking and stuff like that. But it's just like, so what? Stick and stones don't break my bones. So if that's the case, then let's just move on, because if I don't move on, I can't be successful.
You can't stand the thought of not moving on.
Yeah, that's so true.
There's always a way around it. In, over, under, around it. You're going to find a way to get through it, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. I've been watching an anime cartoon called Naruto, and there's a scene where one of the main characters talks about each jutsu has a weak spot. And I say that is because everything in life has that weak spot of adaptability. And once you find it, you can say, okay, I found it. Let's figure out, move on, and let's continue.
So as we're heading to the close, we're not there yet, but we're heading toward the close here, everybody. Here is Aron O'Dowd's LinkedIn profile. You want to hit the QR code there, get to know Aaron more, because Yes, he's in Ireland. He's in Spain, but you never know where he's going to show up. Aaron, what are they going to find on your LinkedIn profile, buddy?
They're gonna find that the champion of life, making the impossible become possible, is a lifestyle. But yet, you're gonna see all the incredible things I'm doing, from books to podcasts to racing to you name it and want to be it, because you know a visual impairment does not define who I am. It defines that there is unlimited possibilities.
And if that's not enough, Aaron is helping to lead out on a new global Ireland project called HOMEFULNESS. This is the Facebook group that they have launched to help build awareness. And on his podcast show, they've been talking about homefulness, not homelessness, homefulness. Aaron, what's this new Ireland project all about?
Um, it's about giving people who don't have the opportunities to have a place they can call home to have a home. And in Ireland, there's an epidemic, and probably around the world at the moment, that there's people that don't, they live in the streets. And my main mode of transportation is by foot, by bus, by train, and by taxi. But when I was walking through the streets of Limerick going home, I'd meet people sitting in the street, and I got speaking to them, and I asked them, what's your biggest thing you want? I want somewhere I can be sheltered and be home. And on my show, I connected with Ciara Hennigan, Lee Tonyware, Bill Phillips, Declan Dowling, Joseph McGuire, and other people, and we started this project. And over the space of lockdown and years of crafting it, we called it Homefulness Ireland. It's giving a place where people can feel fulfilled and safe, secure in their home. And that's the goal, is to give, the solution that's not there, because everyone needs to feel secure, safe, sound, happy, and peaceful.
Well, and again, he's been doing a marvelous job with all the people he has mentioned. He's done a three-part series on the Aron O'Dowd show about all of this. And again, you are pushing the boundaries. You are not letting your, as people would call it, a disability, your handicap. Do you even use the word disability, handicap? Are those words in your vocabulary?
They are. It's interesting. I'm in the community, and I say, to I'm disabled. It's like, no, Aaron, you have different abilities, and that's how I view it. But in society, disabled is a word that is used a lot, and one of the parts I would love if the vocabulary in the dictionary could remove that word disabled and put something else in it, because I know people who I hang out with that have different abilities say, hey, I don't want to be disabled, I don't want to be handicapped, but that's the label I have. But yet, them, it's like they don't have the label. So part of the show, probably one of the ideas for the show, is to explore and discover, why is this here, how can we adapt it and change it to something completely different, where people see them having abilities.
Well, you're doing a great job. You are crushing it in so many different ways. And I do like that word, adaptive, because you have adapted and adapted and adapted since age 7 when your eyesight started to go, and you're still adapting and you're still dreaming. You're pushing the boundaries. And Aron O'Dowd, it's great to have you on the show, Rock the Stage here tonight. Any final thoughts you want to put out before we let you go and go do something else crazy with your day?
Cool. First, I want to say thank you so much for having me on the show. And the second thing I'd like to say is, remember, we dream to believe, and in believing to dream, it's all about the decision. How dedicated are you to that decision, and then making the consistency. The formula is there. The relaxed focus is there, and then consistency equals progress. So remember, what dream you want, find it, do it, be it, because there's nothing stopping you.
That's Aron O'Dowd. Again, you want to follow his podcast, the Aron O'Dowd Show, all the amazing things that you're doing. But again, the biggest, best thing today that you can think about from this show and take away is dream the impossible. Walt Disney said, I love to do the impossible. I think Aaron falls right in that category. He loves to do the impossible. And as you've heard him said, he's adapting, he's dreaming, he's pushing the boundaries. Find that community, whatever it is that you struggle with. It may not be a disability, maybe something else, but find the community that you need to help make your dreams come alive and push the boundaries and go further and further and further. And if you don't believe there are people that inspire anymore, if you don't believe there are people out there that are worth looking at as examples, you haven't looked at Aron O'Dowd. Make sure you check him out, learn more about him, because he will inspire you. On those days when you need someone to lift you up, Aron O'Dowd will help you get there. Hey, that's going to do it for this edition of Rock the Stage Show. I'm the Trigger, Rich Bontrager. We'll be back here Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, each and every Sunday night with another exciting edition of Rock the Stage Show. Come on back next week. We'll be here at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Rock the Stage.